So you're ready to do some cleaning.
Yeah, my thing, cleaning up old, dirty, greasy parts.
So we kind of talked a minute ago about these car guys who always want a car from the year they were born, kind of like...
Right. I was born in 1958. I always thought 1958 Chevys were cool. I'd really like to have one, but I've never had the opportunity.
Okay. So this is a 1942, or parts of a 1942 John Deere B.
Yes.
And you were saying our farmer customer...
Our farmer customer brought this in, was bragging to me that this tractor was born the same year he was, and he wants to restore this tractor so he has a tractor that's just as old as he is.
Okay. So we've got the block in, needs some work, the head to check out probably, and the pistons and rods here obviously. Don't have the crankshaft on this one, but you said something about that they got this running.
They got this running. It was stuck when he bought the tractor. They got it freed up enough to get it running, but it has sat for a long time with water in the cylinders, and they were rusted, pitted real bad. When we go through this, we're going to have to put repair sleeves in that block, and in doing so, trying to keep the costs down, I hope we're going to be able to reuse the old pistons for him. This doesn't have to be done to the quality that you would if it was going to work in the field every day, but it does need to be done to parade quality so it will run and not smoke and be able to start easily for him, just so he can show off a tractor that's the same age as what he is.
We need to get all these studs out and the studs there on the head too.
These two we can work around. These two will just be miserable to work around, so it's easier to just take them out. Yeah. Plus this one is pretty goofed up here. I don't know what somebody did to that, but it wouldn't hurt if it had a new one put back in it anyway.
Yeah, kind of looks like somebody tried to get it out. It's maybe up a little bit.
Yeah.
Now the block and the head here are just rusty as rusty can be in the water jacket as well. And a lot of people, ask, why don't you just hot tank things? The hot tank will not eat that rust.
No. It'll take any of the grease and antifreeze residue. It'll loosen most of that up, but it will not take out the rust.
Yep. I mean, we like to bake our parts and then blast them. And what that does is, since it's actually an abrasive cleaning process, these will come out looking like brand new castings.
Yeah, they'll still have some erosion inside the water jackets where the metal has just gone away over the years, but at least we can get the rust residue and calcium deposits and things like that out of there, so hopefully it'll cool better once it is back together. Cast iron piston, original pistons. Most of your aftermarket stuff has gone to aluminum pistons, but these are the original cast iron. They do have some wear. There's some ring groove wear there.
Babbitt rods.
Babbitt rods with shims in here. We need to keep track of those so they can put all those shims back right where they were, and then making adjustments they need to get the connecting rod to fit the crankshaft as well as they can. I wish people, when they take their engines apart, would pay closer attention to these, take better care of them. Just like these, they're laying there loose. Those little thin pieces of shim material, they get folded over, bent up. They just need to handle them with a little bit more care than what they do. But at this point, we'll take those out, string them on a piece of wire so we can keep track of them, clean them up, and make it work for them.
We've got a Model A down here too with two cast pistons.
Same deal. It has the original cast iron piston in there yet. And same thing, it's been sitting full of water, rusted, and we're going to have to put some sleeves in that block to salvage it.
Which we have done before and learned something on, so...
Yeah, we have a video out there on doing those that we learned a lesson on.
So go check that out on the channel. We also have this Hercules IXB3 here for Junkyard Dave on YouTube. We're doing a little collaboration deal on that, so we got to get this cleaned up and ready to start some machine work on that as well. So let's get to it. Guides do not feel excessively loose or worn, but we'll see what they're like once it's cleaned up a little bit better. I don't know, they don't smell like bad fuel.
No, it smells like fresh.
Maybe it was just a little rust. They just got a little moisture in there and it rusted and they were stuck. So it does look like it's had exhaust seat inserts put in, but they are pretty worn, some pitting, and you made the comment that depending on how long ago that was done, they're probably cast iron.
Yeah, they may
seats.
not been a hard seat. If that was done quite a number of years ago, they may just be cast iron just like the head is.
Yeah, which the amount of runtime this will probably get, who knows if it would matter anyway, but they're worn enough. We'll for sure at least probably do exhaust seats. The trouble with intake seats on these is there's virtually nothing there. I can't remember if it was a B I did a while back or if it was the A, but I put inserts in it, but they were super thin and there was still barely enough underneath them.
Just not enough material to work with, but we can certainly do a lot better valve job if we do replace those and bring the valves back up where they belong.
There's an intake valve with a pretty good gash in the transition area there.
Yeah. Somebody crashed the grinder wheel into that valve when the valve itself was not turning, or else that would have had that groove cut all the way around it. They may not be the original valves out of the head, but they are a John Deere part.
A John Deere part number,
Yeah.
manufactured by Eaton probably.
Yeah, manufactured by Eaton for John Deere.
Try to get those studs on the back out, and then we'll throw it into bake because it is super rusty. There's already chunks of rust coming out just from the little bit of tapping I did to tap the intake valves loose.
These heads have a brass sleeve here that goes down through the water jacket, making the opening for the push rod. Originally, a lot of these, you see them come in, they still had a steel sleeve from the factory, and they'd be all rusted out, leaking coolant into the oil. The replacements are all brass, virtually last forever at that point, or until the next valve job when you have to work on it and disturb them.
Nope.
That ain't good. That's how it's supposed to work.
I just think from the looks of it, somebody else has been trying. There it goes.
Not how we wanted that to go, but it's out of the way. We'll have to drill it and take it out later. This may not be as fun as it looks.
One.
Let's get the torch and put some heat on it.
Want me to keep going or what?
Yeah.
Now what?
Wonder what would happen if we baked it and then put wax or something back on, because the trouble with baking it, it'll burn loose all the crud, but then it's completely dry. Burns all lubrication out of there.
Yeah.
But maybe if we bake it and then let it soak. I don't want to force this to the point that we break them off and have to drill all of them.
Yeah. Okay. Or the internet will tell us.
Yeah, let's go ahead and bake it, which normally makes it harder to get them out, but let's try something new. Let's bake it, and then after it's clean, we will heat it back up again, get some penetrating oil on it, let it sit for an extended period of time. I mean, this isn't a rush job. It can sit for a day or two and see what happens.
Yep. We'll figure out the studs later.
Yeah. We're going to have to put the new sleeves in and then drill for the spark plug, drill for the compression release. We'll have to look at this. I'm not sure if we're going to put sleeves in from the top down or the bottom up. This does have pretty good sized bevel here at the top. We may just leave that the way it is and put our sleeve in from the bottom up to that. But again, this is something we'll look at after it's clean.
Yeah.
Make that determination.
Well, we don't like losing the fight with studs like that, but sometimes you got to take a little bit to think a little bit more.
Yeah, something like that, rather than forcing it and having things not work and create more problems, let's take a step back, give it some more thought.
Some more patience.
Some more patience. The biggest thing that helps with broken bolts and studs is patience.
Yep.
Goes a long, long ways.
And those aren't broke yet, but they're seized. So
Right.
Okay.
They could be broke real easy. We need to take this all apart to clean it, but we need to keep track of these shims. What do you say we take maybe a washer and stamp a number 1 and a number 2 on another and string it on a piece of wire with the shims that came off these,
Okay.
so we can keep track of which one they came out of.
Okay.
When this flies across the shop, you watch for where it went.
Where it lands.
Yeah. When I do ones like this, I always try to put my finger inside there, so if it does snap away, maybe I'll catch it on the end of my finger. Pretty loose. Look at the movement in that. I don't know if you can see that on camera or not, but there's a lot of play in that bushing. A lot in the piston too.
You see?
That's got a few acres on it. I think we can get rings somewhere, but these worn out rings would be better than no rings.
Yeah.
So let's save these. You know, these ring expander tool we have here is not the best of tools, but it actually showed up at our shop unexpectedly when a customer returned a set of pistons to us. Somewhere or another they
They put their tool back.
put their tool. I think it's probably a deal. Their tool was so bad they wanted to get rid of it, so they put it in the box of pistons they returned to us.
I don't know if anybody sells any better ring expander tools though. Like everything I've seen is pretty much
Pretty janky.
Yeah.
I can definitely see why they got rid of them.
They're also not made for 1/4-inch rings. That one ring is thicker than a modern day entire ring pack put together.
It is. It really is.
I think it's kind of cool working on this old stuff and seeing
I think it's neat to see how things have progressed over the years.
things that have changed and things that have not changed.
Right, because the basic engine has not changed. I mean, this engine here from 1940 operates on the same principle as anything coming off the assembly line today on 2023, but just how much the technology has
I can
changed.
see every comment pointing out every little minute difference in a modern engine to this engine.
These are cast iron pistons. We can bake these and blast them just like we do the heads and blocks. The connecting rods, since they are a babbitt, we're going to have to be careful not to mess up the babbitt that's in there. So we're just going to wash that in our spray cabinet there. The cleaning solution in that will not hurt them. Plus, we don't want to mess up the, even as badly worn as these pin bushings are, we don't want to mess them up until we have new ones in hand.
Okay, so there's the Model A block.
Basically the same exact design. Luckily on this one, the customer took the studs out of it, so we're not going to have to mess with that. Pretty much same issue. This old tractor had been parked in the back 40, left sit, got water down the exhaust, rusted it up, and now for whatever reason, who knows how many years later, they think they want to restore the tractor. Again, he has original John Deere cast iron pistons. He wants to reuse, save some cost on it, because replacement pistons, if you can get them, are quite costly. And with the rust that's in the cylinder, even going oversized is probably not going to clean up. So he wants to opt to sleeve this and reuse his existing pistons, which we have done before. Looks like we're going to do it again. These are actually pretty good. They're not all worn out like that set of Bs.
And they had already taken the rings out.
Yeah,
so.
he's taken the rings out. Looks like he used a ring groove scraper and cleaned most of the carbon out. So there won't be much for us to do on those, but we can make them a little bit cleaner than what they are right now, so we'll do that. Funny shape on the head. Yeah, there's a John Deere number, A3531R.045. And they look nice smooth, polished skirt. They're not all scored up or anything.
All right, so basically we're trying to get the oven loaded up for our next round of next projects here that we got to get moving on while we're wrapping up the 383 that we'll be back on next week. So this is a Hercules IXB3 that's actually out of a 1948 Keller Super Chief, which is apparently a super rare vehicle. There's a guy, his name is Dave. He has a channel called Junkyard Dave. I think he's down Colorado Springs area, or maybe Pueblo. I think he said Pueblo, actually. He has a YouTube channel. We'll put the link in the description. But he's restoring this super rare car, and it has this Hercules IXB3 4-cylinder engine in it. So we're going to go through and do some machine work on it. I did go through and figure out that we do need to go oversize on pistons. Crankshaft needs to be ground. I think there's a couple bolt holes that we're going to have to do some helicoils in, or thread repair on, not necessarily helicoils. It's got a little crack from there to there, but that doesn't matter. But with that being said, we want to bake it and blast it and get it as clean as possible so that we can actually do a thorough inspection on it and make sure that there aren't more cracks that are unseen before we go through all the trouble to rebuild this engine. So the camshaft has a little bit of rust pitting on it.
Yeah, it has sat and had moisture in it. Rust on several of the lobes here. They're a little rough on the nose of the lobes.
Given it's probably not going to be a daily driver, one would assume, it would probably be okay.
It'd probably be okay, but if we're going to go to the extent to rebuild this and the expense of the parts on it, it's only a few dollars more to have the cam reground and make it right.
Yep. So we'll be sending this out to Delta Camshaft to have them regrind it. They mentioned they could even put kind of almost like an RV cam grind on it to give it a little
real
more
mild performance grind.
Yeah, so I'll talk with Dave there and talk with Delta Cam out there in Washington. We use them for a lot of stuff, but or have used them in the past for a lot. So you can see the lifters again have quite a bit of pitting on them, so they will go out to Delta Camshaft as well to be refaced. It is a flat head, so the head will just have to resurface, basically.
Yeah, it needs cleaned, and we'll resurface it just to make sure it's absolutely flat.
I would say it's already relatively clean, but like we mentioned earlier, there's all that rust in the...
We can get rid of that rust. There's still some carbon buildup here in the chambers. We'll get that all out of there.
Yeah, we can get it cleaner.
Yeah.
We're going to be doing valve seats in the block. The valves are kind of... they've got some wear here. You would probably be okay just grinding these. I haven't gone far enough to check how the wear on the valve stem is and so on, but again, considering all the work we're going to, if we can get new valve train components, we're probably going to do that as well. He did bring us the flywheel. He brought the old pistons that have already been cleaned up, but considering we're going to go oversized, we'll be getting new pistons. Brought the clutch and everything in case we want to balance it. And then we have the connecting rods to check out, potentially resize. So the connecting rods are a cinch bolt design. The wrist pin is held on with a bolt. It's got that split in the rod there. The wrist pin goes through, and then you tighten down a bolt.
Yeah, it clamps. It doesn't screw into the wrist pin, but it clamps the rod around the wrist pin.
Right, and the wrist pin has a little clearance for the bolt there. I don't know. I did a TikTok on. There's different names for them. I think I called them cinch bolt, and people didn't like that, but
When you work on this old stuff, you never throw any of your parts away until you have a replacement in hand, because so many times you end up you can't get the parts that you thought you could. And my thought is an old worn out part is still better than no part at all.
you don't want to order a bunch of parts and then you find out that the block is no good or something like that, and you have all these extra parts, but you also don't want to go to a bunch of work on the block and then not have any, not be able to get parts. So it's kind of a catch-22 kind of thing.
Yeah, it's the old chicken and the egg, which came first and which do you need first?
So since we are baking the block, we do have to remove camshaft bearings.
Virtually everything has to be removed before you can bake it and clean it. I believe that's it. 217.48.
Yeah, 1948.
So that's a little better, 10 years older than I am.
He also wants us to see if we can drill these rivets out and tap his
ID tag that goes on there.
I guess I didn't think about it being short enough to go tall ways.
Well, most of the time they're not. Look at the difference in these pistons. Let's just compare all of our pistons on the engines we're working on here.
All from roughly the same era.
Yeah. So we've got our little Hercules here from this engine we're putting in right now. We've got our Model B John Deere, and we've got Model A John Deere.
Let me take a picture of that.
Yeah, I think they had that out already.
Okay, you got a hold of that crank? It's moving.
Okay, I got a hold of it. I don't like where my face is at, but I got a hold of it.
I see the crank moving, so.
Okay. I wasn't ready for that. Grab that.
That's why I kept asking you.
We've got the pulley off there now. Looks like the seal is still on here. I mean, in reality, they should have pulled that off before they took the timing cover and everything off, but they probably couldn't get it off, and it's better they did it this way than ruin something. But if you'll kind of hold that crank, I need to see if I can pop that key up out of there. There it is. So we need to save that. But now we got the key out, we can take off what must be the seal. And again, we're going to save that with the cam bearings and stuff wherever you went with those. And I think that gear will come off relatively easy. In fact, let's put it over in the press again. And I don't want to get it excessively hot, but let's warm that gear just a little bit, make it come off easier.
Okay. Son of a that was loud.
That had something sharp on it.
Okay, that was tight.
Yeah, that was tight, and that old wrist pin we was using had a burr on the end of it that bit my finger. You see we've drawn blood. Well, the first time we just add 10% to the bill.
Okay.
Second time, 20% and so forth. So anyway, we'll make a little extra profit for the blood charge. So anyway, let's put the crankshaft in the oven here with the rest of the parts. I think before we send this cam out, we want to take this gear off of it, but we were a little bit unsure of how this all goes together. I think this gear actually presses back off that way, and this gear, I'm not convinced of that yet, but we're wondering if it is actually part of the camshaft.
Yeah.
So we want to do a little more research on that before we go any farther there.
Well, and I'm going to call them and see if they even care if we just leave the gears on when we send it to them. But
Yeah. We're kind of, ouch, you know, there's still a piece of metal in there. I don't know where you want to put that stuff so it doesn't get lost.
this area looks a little more cleaned up, but what else have we got?
We've got a Vortec 350 core motor we got in here. Supposed to be low mileage. They think it just has a lifter that's bad in it, but they replaced the whole engine with a Good Ranch engine. So we have plans of using this to build another 383 with the leftover parts that we have from the one we're doing right now. We ended up with some extra pistons, extra crankshaft. What else? We have a camshaft because we made changes there.
Yep.
So we're going to do another one here, but a little bit milder build with 9.5 to 1 compression.
Okay. So that'll be, we'll probably do a little bit of video of that, and it'll be for sale at some point. So.
Yes. And I want to run that one on dyno also, just like we're doing the one we're building here right now. I want to see the comparison between the two engines.
See if you were right or wrong.
See if I was right or wrong. Probably wrong.
Yeah. Kind of a long video for not doing anything, I'm assuming, but parts in there are parts that can't be baked, so we're going to run them and wash. And how about Sunday morning, if you turn on the oven here and get all these parts baked, we can get going.
Yeah, because Sunday we're on cheap electric rate, save us some money. I can turn it on first thing in the morning. It'll be cool by Monday morning when we come in, ready to start cleaning parts.
And I already forgot about all those studs we still got to take out.
Yeah, we still got to get those studs out.
But we've got an oven full of project here.
Those studs might be a whole video in themselves.
Might be. So anyway, that's kind of what's coming up, and I think next week we'll have a video on the 383 again. So
Yeah.
moving through, wrapping that project up and starting a few new ones.
See you next time.